Okay, reconnection successful. Stream manager. Alright. I think we're looking good. Yeah. Yeah. Alright, sweet. So, moving on to the... Oh, flickering. Oh no. Moving on to the actual stuff at hand. So again, if anyone wants to join and check it out, that's fine. Let's do a bit of math. And let's... I have some notes here. I don't know how relevant they might be, but they're kind of just like ideas that I could kind of riff off of. So, let's see. Something called the car payment treadmill. Okay. Now, because I'm not a financial advisor, and because I'm not a teacher, this is gonna kind of come off more like a riff, kind of a general overview, and maybe some incorrect information. But don't get it twisted. I'm not trying to lead people the wrong way. I'm just trying to say, hey, you know, this is how you can apply math to this thing. So, you know, that math class that you're probably taking is actually useful to avoid this particular problem. And from what I know, let's say, for example, you have a money, right? Or you have a budget. Let's work with that. You have a budget. You have an X value of money going in to your pocket, or I don't know, what's a representation of a bank? I guess like this with a triangle hat, the pillars and the door. Yeah, that's good enough. All right. So, you have an inflow of money of a variable amount coming in at regular intervals, right? We're gonna use X for now, and we're gonna assume a time period of, let's say, every 2 weeks, right? Now, we could use an actual number, right? We could say it's maybe $100 or $1,000 or $1 million. Ah, that'd be cool. But instead, I think maybe when you consider things like debts and payments, you should consider them not as a solid number, but as a percentage that you are comfortable with. So, for example, and this is going to kind of go sideways a bit into something called lifestyle creep. Lifestyle creep. So lifestyle creep is where you only look at percentages and you don't look at maybe the raw numbers, right? These are like kind of two halves of the same coin, where kind of one is maybe you're only looking at the number, and here you're only looking at the that's not a percent. That was gonna be an ampersand. There we go. And both are kind of correct and incorrect. Again, it depends on how you apply them. So for lifestyle creep, let's say, for example, you have a budget for entertainment, right? And let's use a couple of different X values. So entertainment, actually let's use E. I like E. Even though E is like an actual, I think, value, if you use like the lowercase one, we'll just use the big E. Alright. So big E as a variable equals entertainment budget. And here you would say, okay, as a percentage of my budget, let's do like a nice, I don't know, like 10%, right? Or you know, I think the actual answer is like 20. I think some people say it's 20%. I'm probably a little stingy, but let's go with the standard number, 20%. I shouldn't say standard. I'm not a financial advisor. But I do know things. Alright. And it is 20% of your budget, right? And so, then if your total income is like this, or it's X, if you divide it by 5, that will equal E, right? Because you have whatever number you have divided by 5, which will be E, will be a percent, which equals 20% of X. I know, a bit redundant, but bear with me here. Now, the way this applies to lifestyle creep is, let's say, for example, you have a income of $100, right? And here's where you kind of see where it goes. Divided by 5 equals 20 equals your entertainment budget, right? And you have had the entertainment budget of $20 for a period of time. Let's say years, right? For years, a decade. I don't know. Your allowance, or your well, I shouldn't say allowance. This is based off income. Your allowance to yourself is basically what it is. So your allowance to yourself is that you allow yourself to have a percentage of your budget, of the money that you have, and we'll just use gross, not net income. Gross. Although net income might be more responsible, we'll just use gross, right? And this is the amount of money that you've had for a very, very long time. Okay, you've been okay with this $20 budget for entertainment. You're okay with maybe going to the movies like, let's see if it's if this is E is every 2 weeks. X. I think I already have it over here. Yeah, 2 weeks. Alright, let me just get that over there. Yeah, there it is. Alright. So maybe about like once a month, you could go do something like see a movie or go to a cheap concert. And because you've had this tight budget, maybe $20 of entertainment for every 2 weeks for years, you know, that that constraint kind of makes you have to have creative decisions, right? Maybe you decide, well, maybe instead of going to a paid concert, I'll just go to a free concert in the park, right? Or go to the local guy who plays in the park and you know, plays music. Or maybe instead of, you know, going to see a movie, you sail the high seas of the internet, yar, right? And you get your entertainment that way. And you've been okay. You haven't been struggling. You haven't been suffering under the weight of this budget. But it is something that you're able to work with. Now, what lifestyle creep is, let's say, for example, you know, one day you get like a big break, a huge promotion, right? Entirely new job. And all of a sudden your income is now, where X was 100. Now let's kick it up to 1,000, right? So now, because you're using a percentage and not a specific raw number, your entertainment budget has crept up to your new lifestyle. See what I did there? So now you are spending about, let's see, $1,000 divided by 5, and you just add the extra zero at the bottom, or to it. So now your new entertainment budget is $200 every 2 weeks. Wow, what a huge change, right? Now you can kind of go to some real fancy stuff, right? Maybe instead of like a movie a month, maybe you can go to like a really nice opera and have some, like, you know, expensive dining experience afterwards. Maybe you could I don't know, go to some fancy, schwanky charity ball, right? And start throwing out the that there Benjamins. I think that's the phrase. So the point is that, you know, instead of remaining where you were, you are now creeping up to where you think, okay, now I can enjoy nice things. Now, why is this bad? Inherently, it can be good, it can be bad, right? Like all things. And to kind of go over both, you know, the good, right? And I'll draw it out. Is that now you get to have fancy things. Maybe you get to have, oh geez, I don't know. What do fancy people do? Fancy wine. And, fancy cheese, I think. Yeah. Right? Maybe you get to go to some really cool events. Does that look like a musical note? I think so. Yeah, good enough. Maybe you get to go on a really nice vacation, right? I should probably draw this as like a beach towel, right? I don't know, this looks like a giant piece of paper. Okay, well, whatever. So the nice thing about lifestyle creep is that you get to enjoy better things, better quality things. You get to enjoy the things that maybe you already do enjoy much more frequently, right? By, I guess a factor of, no, not like a factor of 10. That's not how that works. At 10 times. 10 times as much. And that's cool, right? But if you want to make more money, then it can also be the bad. And the bad is that that difference, right, of the 200 that you're now spending because you're only using the percentage. Well, that's $180 that maybe you could be doing something else with, right? Maybe that's $180 that you can be using to pay off some kind of debt, right? So, not paying off debt. That's a B. That's bad. So you're not using that money to pay off debt. Maybe you're not using that money to invest, right? Not paying off debt, not investing, not, I forget, would you actually make more money donating it to a charitable cause so you could use that as a tax write-off to have reduced taxes? I think so. I think so, because when you get into making significantly more money, you start getting taxed at higher rates for the increased income. So then you should consider things like donations to kind of offset that. Or at least like some kind of pre-tax deduction, right? Anyways, so not paying off debt, not investing, not saving, generally. In case there's an emergency, in case you expect or anticipate something serious to come up, like a major car expense, a major XYZ, whatever. So that difference, that delta of 180 between the amount that you are now spending on entertainment and the amount that you used to spend, potentially could be used to set you up in a better, more stable situation later on. But because you're only using a percentage of your budget and not a raw number, then you are experiencing lifestyle creep. So that 20%. Now, the nice thing, again, and I'll go to lifestyle creep, is not only can you do nice things like this, right? You can also always cut down. can cut down. And what I mean by that is that you now have wiggle room in that sense. So, you know, maybe sometimes you can enjoy the fancy wine, the cheeses, and the vacations. But then you could also say, you know what, I don't really need to spend this every time. So then maybe I can use it to actually pay debt and invest and save. And you know, of course, you'd probably need to save if you want to eventually go to a nice vacation. So as long as you're being aware and conscious of your spending, how it's going, where it's going, how it can be better applied, that's good stuff. Because then you can kind of be flexible. You can enjoy some of the good and avoid the bad, right? But this is kind of just a basic, simple, I guess, formula. If you're using 20% of your budget for entertainment, to just kind of be aware that to not stick with that singular formula, right? Whatever formula worked for you maybe a decade ago, or 5 years ago, or even 1 year ago, might be better suited to be changing to something else now. To that end, right? That's if you look at the percentages, that's the good and the bad. And the car payment treadmill is where you just look at the numbers, but kind of in the wrong way. So, say for example, you have a car. No, you have income. Let's start with that. You have income, right? And it's a X value. And here it doesn't matter where you make the only number that matters is so long as it doesn't go down. So as long as your income is greater than, no, whoops, that's the wrong way. Greater than or equal to the amount that you spend on the car payment. In this example, you're functionally okay. So, say for example, if you know, the number that you're making is 200 and the car payment is 200. Well, all your money is going to the car, but you know, for whatever variable that is, it's kind of equal, so it kind of is okay. If your income is 100 and the car payment is 200 still, then that's less than. And that starts to get pretty bad, because then you're falling behind on payments and you can have the car repossessed. But if you're like, you know, $1 million and the car payment's still 200, then you're okay. Again, it's not like generally you have to like spend up to the dollar, every dollar you make, emptying your paycheck just for a car. That's not a good idea. I don't recommend it. But for this example with the math formula, generally if you can afford the payment and your income is higher than the amount, that's fine. Because we're not actually looking at how much you make and how much it can fluctuate. We're looking at how much the car payment can deceptively stay the same, even though it should be going down. And that's the treadmill part. So, let's say you have income of X, right? And you're paying a payment of something that is a fraction of this X. Let's use a big chunky amount. Well, and maybe I should make a variable for the car payment. You know what? Let's try this. Not that. And I gotta move my head out of the way. Whoa. Okay, so car payment is X divided by, what's a horrible number? Half. That's awful, right? Please don't end up in this situation where you're spending half of your gross and or net income on a car payment. But if you are in this situation, I'll try to help. We're trying. Okay, so if it's like that, right? Then it really doesn't matter what X is, it just matters that you're paying half. And it is a consistent payment, but it ends at some point, right? Because usually car loans, They can be a variable number sometimes. I think for a while it used to be like 3 years, and then it got egregious, and people were like, "Whoa, 5-year loan? That's disgusting. How could you?" And then now it's like 7, and now people are looking at 10-year loans. It's some real crazy stuff. Oh, what's a disgusting amount? Let's go with 7. I think 7's still popular, right? That's still a lot, but you know, it's something. And how many months is that? It's what, 7 times 12? What's that off the top of my head? That's 70 plus 14, 84 months? Is that right? Hold on. I'm gonna bust out the calculator. Hey, alright. So, that amount each month. $44 months. Okay, fine. Now, working off of that, pardon me. What we do is we look at how much you're paying, and we look at the debt, right? So if you imagine the debt of the car, it's like a glass of water, right? And the closer you get to emptying it, the closer you get to paying off your car. So, you know, first year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year, sixth year, seventh year, all done. Ah, that's nice. But what can happen is that maybe you're only halfway through, right? And your car still has some value. What you might be offered is to trade in your vehicle and to say, hey, you know, you have a car that you partially paid off, but, you know, it's getting a little old, and if you don't want to, you know, do repairs, if you're worried about it falling apart, we could swing you a deal and have you trade in your vehicle for a new model, for a new, better one, and your car payments will stay exactly the same, right? And you're like, okay, cool. So on your end of things, it may be deceptive and look like as if everything's fine, right? You're just going from, you know, X to 2 to 84 months, and then you're going to take out a new loan, you sell your car, you have some of that money pay for the new loan, and then you start over at another 84 months, even though you only had like 41 months left. And then you can kind of keep going and going and going and going, where you trade in a car for a car, trade in a car for a car, trade in a car for a car, dot 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 dot. And this is why it's called the car payment treadmill, in that it keeps you in this debt and paying this amount, even if you're okay with this amount, in perpetuity. So, let's say, for example, instead of paying off X divided by 2 times 84 months, I guess, oh, my head's in the way. My apologies. So, you have this amount that you're paying times 84 months, and that would have been about 42x dollars per month. And if you think of it this way, you're paying an entire month's salary. Oh no, wait, hold on. X is every 2 weeks, huh? It's 84 months. X dollars. No. Okay, so per month, right? Because it's only half. Yeah. Okay. This works. And then you would convert this into years. I think it's like 1 year, 12 months. And you multiply it, so the months cross out. You divide 42 by 12. I don't think that divides in cleanly. It does not. Alright. So then you're gonna do about 3.5 X payments per year. So basically, you're paying 3.5 years salary per car, right? And every time you trade it in, you're kind of adding on top of that half the amount. So, first time you have a car, you're paying about 3.5 years. You know what, let's just make it easier. Let's make X per month. Yeah, let's make X per month. Wages per month. Nice. Okay. So then every time you get a car, with this formula of paying half of your income monthly towards the car payment, you're paying about 3.5 years worth of wages per car. And then once you already are halfway there, so let's divide this by 2. So 1.75, then you trade it in for another car, which you pay for about half a year, trade it in for another car, which you trade in for about half a year, trade in for another car, and then finally you learn your lesson and you're like, alright, I'm going to pay this one off. So you just voluntarily paid almost 2 years worth of wages in this example every time you decide to trade in your vehicle for a new one. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money towards debt. That's a lot of money not going towards investing. That's a lot of money not going to savings. That's a lot of money not going towards the car maintenance itself, paying for things like tires, getting it serviced, replacement parts, I don't know, gas, right? That's a lot of money not going towards anything else, housing, food, whatnot. It's going specifically because there's the decision to trade in a car and someone convinced you that you need a shinier version of basic. And that is the car payment treadmill. And they get you because they have you only look at the number with which you are paying. And because they only have you look at the number you're paying, you're just saying, hey, you could just pay the same number, but you just extend it again and again and again and again, then you're accepting this as almost like a Pavlovian conditioning to just accept that this is something that you'll pay for forever and you can never pay off. But that's not the case. It's an asset. It's a thing that depreciates. It's an object that has an end date to which you can pay it off. So try to consider that instead of playing the treadmill game and paying forever. So you gotta be careful of just looking at the number, and just like lifestyle creep, you gotta be careful of just looking at the percentage. Because if you only look at the percentage, and again going back to this, then you can think, okay, well now that I got a whole bunch of money, I can do all this crazy fancy stuff, but that's also money that you're not using to pay off other things or to save or invest. So that can be rough. And you know, this isn't super like complex derivatives or polynomials or kind of I like saying the word logarithmic functions. But it's not something crazy like that. This is kind of very simple algebra that you can use when looking at your own finances to kind of decide, well, am I doing the right thing? And you know, unfortunately, there isn't like a formula. There isn't like a teacher, a class who can tell you, yes, you're doing the right thing, no, you're doing the wrong thing. That would, I think the closest thing would be like a financial advisor. But then again, what they try to do is tailor it to your lifestyle, your desires, your wants, your needs, and kind of give you formulas and processes in which to approach finance like as if there is an equation to solve. But as far as I'm aware, it's kind of like where they work backwards, or where they say, okay, here is where you are, here is where you want to be, and so now we have to come up with a formula to figure out how do we get there. And they might come up with things like a budget, an investing plan, cutting out these expenses, things like that. So they can kind of look at where you are and get you where you want to be with that. So again, I'm not this. But they can be helpful, I think. Oh wow, geez, already 40 minutes. That was nice. All right. Well, let's keep her going. So that is the car payment treadmill. Some of these are really funny. But let's go to the minimum. Well, I think I already did minimum payments, and how they're kind of like, you know, not truly paying off the debt. You're just kind of stuck there. And in a way, the car payment treadmill is kind of like the minimum payment, where you're just paying off this amount, and then you're paying it constantly, and then there's nothing else. You're not cutting into it. You're not taking a chunk out of the expense itself and getting it closer. Because here's the crazy thing. Right? If you take this analogy, like money is like water, right? It flows down from your work right into your pockets. And that's cool, right? But every time you have a debt, it's just like this little barrier that kind of cuts into that, right? This might be a credit card. This might be a loan. And then it cuts into it more when you get more of these things, until the amount of money that you're actually getting into your pocket to maybe, you know, offset the things. Like let's say you have a car and rent, right? And so then you only have this little bit of money left over to pay into the car for repairs or maintenance or gas. And you only have a little bit of money to pay into the rent. Let's say if the rent goes up, or there's something broken, or to improve your lifestyle. But if you're able to get rid of these debts, then this is more money that flows in that maybe you don't have to spend into things like rent and cars, and it could just be like for fun and games. No, ideally it'd be more like investing, or savings, emergency funds. But yeah, if you kind of imagine that, that's the terrible thing about debt, is that it constricts and blocks the amount of your income flow into things that you could be using for literally anything else. So it's always probably a good idea to prioritize paying it off. And things like the car payment treadmill can really mess you up. Things like lifestyle creep, or when you're conditioning yourself into thinking that these nice new things are a necessity that you have to pay into. That can be a problem. Alright. House poor? I've never heard of that. That's funny. What does that mean? Let's speculate. After all, there's nothing wrong with a bit of kind of guesstimating, right? House poor? Alright. How? Okay. You know what? Just using that example, right? That same example, I assume, please forgive me if I'm wrong, that house poor is where your income flow. I should actually write all this out first. Okay. So, assuming that you have a income flow, right? I am guessing that house poor is where a lot of that is stopped or blocked because you're putting too much money into your house, more than you can afford. Just this high percentage, this high flat value, that is making you have to pinch your pennies and really save this money for literally everything and everything else, right? And all this little bit of money has to go into savings and let's say health, food, I don't know, entertainment. And you're only left with this tiny bit because literally everything else is going to the house. And that's not even including, right, the secret amount that might chunk from this, where it's actually going into repairs. Because there's a funny phrase that I heard where when it comes to buying a house, that rate that they give you is the least amount you're going to pay, because you still have to pay more for repairs, you have to pay more for appliances, you have to pay more for X, Y, and Z things that go wrong with the house. But when it comes to rent, that is the most amount you'll ever have to pay, where it is capped at that, because you don't have to pay for appliances or repairs or anything else. So I'm guessing house poor is where someone is just spending a lot of money on the house, maybe not even accounting for repairs, appliances, and then they only have a little bit left for the entire other parts of their lives. That's very sad. That's very unfortunate. That's a rough spot to be in. Alright. Well, I can see why this is a problem. And it can be easy to be tricked into thinking that this is actually a good thing, right? Because maybe you're convinced, oh yeah, this house, right, it has value. And because this house has value and it appreciates, then later on, I will have, you know, more money when I later sell. Kind of. So, the weird thing is that if you think of a car, right? I don't think anyone thinks of that with cars, where if you have like a vehicle and you're using it and driving it. Oh, this is a fancy one. Okay, cool. This is considered a depreciating asset. In that, you know, the second you buy it and drive it off the lot, it starts going down in value, very slowly. And then for every year that you have it, for every mile you drive on it, for every bit of wear and tear on this thing, it's just going to go down, down, down. And then when you try to sell it later, you're going to have to sell it for less than whatever amount you bought it for. Right? That's why the car payment treadmill works, because you're, you know, paid off half the vehicle, but you're also selling it for half the price. So you're only paying maybe like a quarter towards the next vehicle that you get, really. Anyways, so yeah, I don't think that math worked out. But moving on. Now, obviously, cars and assets, they're depreciating things. Technically, houses can be considered a depreciating asset as well, because it's not really the house that matters, it's the land. The land itself, the spot where it's at, that is the thing that goes up and down in value. Now, there are some maybe nice things you can do to the house, right? You could spruce it up, you could clean it, you can get new paint, you could maybe add like a little garden, you could, I don't know, add like a proper driveway. You know, fix it and give it like proper AC, right? Does that look like an AC unit? Kind of. Maybe there's even credits where you can get solar panels, right? Or whatever kind of thing your state lets you get. I don't know. And in that way, you know, the house kind of value ticks a little bit up, but it's mostly the land, right? Even if you know, deck out the fanciest house in a terrible neighborhood and there's like a fire and everything burns down, yeah, it's not going to be that affects the value where the house goes down, right? Because there is no house anymore. But the land is still very valuable in and of itself. Unless it like floods and it's like polluted forever, then that will crash the house way more than any like, kind of like damage to the house itself, right? So someone might think, well, it's a house that goes up in value. That is an idea. That is a concept. Whether it is true or not, I think it is more true now because people have seen the values of houses increase rapidly in recent years. However, this is kind of like a wide thing that kind of goes with any kind of asset, right? Cars have also increased by similar factor in price. Gold has increased by a similar factor in price. Silver, you know, all these kinds of assets, physical things, have increased. And you don't necessarily have to invest in like the biggest, most expensive thing to kind of get the big payoff. You could have invested in one of these or collector's cars or any kind of you know, item that has a story. The other thing is that you're considering something that you live in as an investment, and that's kind of a questionable decision, I would say, because if you consider where you live as an investment, then that is how do I put it? It takes a different kind of mindset, because then you could also shift. You know, if your house is an investment, then maybe the gifts that your friends have gotten you and that you cherish deeply, maybe they're not actually gifts, right? Maybe they're secretly investments that you could resell later. Maybe the thing that you did as a favor to someone is not actually a helping favor; it's an investment in a person, right? There's a shift towards a mindset where that, you know, things that might have personal value, that might have living value that you once might cherish, can shift into the idea that all these things are now investments and they have value, and you plan to resell them or get rid of them later. If you're willing to get rid of your house, you're probably willing to get rid of your bed. You're probably willing to get rid of your blankets, your stoveware, your cookingware, right? Why do I have these nice silver spoons when I can just live off plastic spoons for the rest of my life? Right? It kind of pushes you more towards that thinking, where everything's suddenly an investment, and the only value that they have is in their dollar value, and how much you can resell it for. So I would be careful of that spiral. Instead, I would kind of look at to what you are comfortable with, right? Are you comfortable with the housing payments? Is it kind of a non-issue? Are you comfortable with having these things be valuable, but you still hold on to them because you just simply like them, right? I think that's kind of a more holistic and healthy way, because as soon as you start putting dollar values and dollar tags to everything, especially to where you sleep, then you can kind of get a buck wild crazy and start putting dollar values to like to everything else. So I don't recommend it, but I mean, hey, if that's how you roll, that's how you roll, right? But also aside from that, right, the appreciating value of a house is not quite as much as other things can be. Oh, what's a good one? I think it's called yeah, 401k. Yeah. If you put that into an index fund, this is what I heard, right? This is hearsay now. This might sound like sound financial advice, but I'm not a financial advisor. This is entirely hearsay. But if you put money into a 401k into an index fund, which means that it's like a whole bunch of little things. A lot of people like to talk about the S&P 500, which is like the top 500 companies in the States. But, I mean, you know, generally most index funds are pretty good, from what I hear. Then the value in which this appreciates over time can snowball higher than a house. So if you have the house, right, then maybe the value at which it appreciates is, let's say X% per year, right? But then that's just where you have the one value, and it kind of goes up a little bit, kind of goes up a little bit, kind of goes up like that, right? But here with something like a 401k, what you can have is you could either have that bulk amount right away, or you can just have it in chunks and invest it over time. And what you kind of get is something like a, I don't know how to describe it. So this one, it just kind of goes like this, and this looks like a house, where you just put in all the same amount of money, right? But here is where you get, you know, an amount, and you get a little bit. You get an amount, and you get a little bit more. And you put an amount in, and all of a sudden your returns are matching the amount that you put in every time. At some point, the value that you get from the amount of money that you would be putting into a house, you said put into this funds, you are now living off the power of compound interest. And that's like way more money in the end. But, I mean, again, what is your end state, right? I think for a house, the amount with which you would need to hold it for it to appreciate and you sell it at an equal or higher value to where you get the same amount, you know, including all the costs of selling and all that kind of stuff, it would need to be 5 years, right? But you could touch it, right? You could touch it in 5 years. Sorry, this is all kind of, again, speculation, wild speculation. My apologies. But here is something that maybe you would make it in less time, right? So, actually, no. Hold on. No, this is different. Because for a house, you can get a loan. And the loan gives you like a fat amount of capital. And then it increases in value from that. It's much harder to get a personal loan or a loan to put into a 401k than it is to get a loan for a house. Because I don't think these things exist. I mean, you get maybe employer matching, but that's about it. Okay. Let's take another example. 5 years, I think the house wins, right? That's a smart move. If you're looking to resell a place, because 401ks you probably can't touch for like, I don't know, 40 years, right? Very long time. Yeah, I gained a loan for a 401k, right? It's hilarious. Like, what if you could just front load the amount? But here's the thing, right? That might work, because if you could front load the amount of 401k, the amount of interest, like even 6%, would probably beat the amount that you actually have to pay off the loan, which might be like 4%. So then you're actually making money from that, but you can't like touch it for like 40 years. It's a really weird thing. But here's the thing, right? A loan for 401k kind of exists in the US now in like some weird ways. We're in, what was that, the child something credit? I don't know if that's for like school. I don't know if it's for retirement. I forgot what it was, but there's where kids born after I think the year 2024 or something, or 2023, maybe 2. They now get a starting amount put into the markets from the government, and then it kind of builds up from there. So it's not really like a loan, it's kind of just like free money. I don't know. Okay, how would that work though? Now I want to speculate even more. Loan for 401k. Oh man, I don't know, it's just such a crazy idea. Alright, let's start with numbers, right? You get 100k into your 401k. Alright, the market, let's say an index fund, it averages out to 6%. Damn, these babies just get born with more money than me. Basically, right? That's very lucky for them, and good for them. I try to put things that way where it's not like, ah, dang it, I missed out. You know, born too early to see the markets crash. Born too late to buy stuff in the 80s. Born just the right time to do a VTuber. But yeah, no, good for them for getting that little extra money. Alright, 401k, 6%. So then what would the loan terms be, right? I mean, the thing about a loan is that they don't have to actually beat this amount. They could just do it whatever. They could even have it as like a 1%, right? Because what they want is their money plus the interest. And because it's such a ridiculously large amount, it's basically almost like a school loan. Wherein, you're just taking out a lot of money for school. They assume you're going to pay it back because you're going to live long enough. You want to live long enough to be able to see the returns from your 401k. So then they just want at least the money back plus a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I think that could actually really work. But like, who has the money to like pay 1% of like 100k? That's still a lot of money. That's a lot. That's basically indentured servitude with the idea that you might retire and at the age of 65 all of a sudden make baller money because of the compound interest from this initial fat loan. But then realistically, would people live long enough to see that? Probably not. So then if the bank or whoever's giving this loan, right, has a rider where then if you die before then, they can get the money back plus some of the interest gained. Oh, that's devious. Oh, that'd be devious. But, I mean, here's the thing. There is precedent for that. Because there's an issue where Walmart used to take out life insurance loans on its own employees without them knowing, right? Devious thing. I don't recommend anyone do it. But here's what they did. What they did is they looked at their employees and like, oh yeah, okay, this guy is like 40 years old. He's male. He's overweight. What are the odds that he would live long enough to actually see us, see him get life insurance or this payout, right? Probably not a lot. So then they have them sign a thing where it's like, okay, well, if you live to a certain age, like 65, then the money that we took out on this life insurance loan goes to you. But if you die before then, the money goes to us. And then they do like calculations where they'd expect this dude to like die at like 50 from like a heart attack. And then so then they get the payout. Crazy stuff like that, right? And so maybe that's where this would work. And again, I'm not trying to inspire anyone to take advantage of people or, make money off of death. But, I mean, that's a lot of money that someone could get if they live long enough and take care of themselves. And it might even encourage it, right? But it would only be bad if this was private, right? Let's say, for example, if it was like for those kids' loans, where this was a government loan that was at 0% interest rate, right? Like those special COVID loans, right? So if you get something like a COVID loan, and then it gets put into a 401k, and the compound interest kind of builds up, and then maybe once you reach the age of retirement, then they only take out the 100k. And if they do that, then you can keep basically the entire, year's worth of compound interest just for you. So it's like a kind of like a government-funded program to inspire people to like live. Yeah, just 100k into a 401k, and then when you get to your age, they take out that chunk of 100k, and then you have the rest as basically free money. And that would also, that would stimulate businesses by not giving businesses direct loans, but instead giving them capital through stocks, because these are index funds. I mean, this could even work for bonds, right? But then it's just the government giving itself money. Like, hey, here's 100k for bonds, and then you get the, 2% in like 30 years, and then we get the 100k back. Would that work? Probably not. Because then they probably want some percent interest, because, I don't know. There's ways in which things can work out so that systems and money and these numbers can benefit others, right? But that's not quite how things are. So hopefully a lot of what I've talked about can help you kind of keep an eye out for your own benefits, so that you don't fall into traps, and kind of using this basic math and basic formulas to avoid these things. Also, sorry for not formally saying hi. I gotta reload my chat. so I could see your name. I just see the text floating on the screen. Hello, Elliot Ambers. Nice to see you. Yeah. Oh man. Oh, okay. I don't know what time you joined, but it's kind of bad timing because I usually end right at this time. But I want to say, you know, thank you for joining. Sometimes when you gonna roll, you gonna roll. Yeah, that's true. Oh, hi there. I just came in about 7 minutes ago. Yeah, okay, well, you know what? Then I'll give you kind of a recap, right? So what I do as Vtutor 8 is I try to apply, well, first of all, the main thing is to offer tutoring services. This is actually conferencing software. So if anyone has like math or school or something, hopefully college level algebra, because that's like nice and easy, but it's also like hard for someone who's in it. They can kind of join in the call. Yeah, copy, paste, and then, yeah, Pythagorean theorem. It's the good stuff. Nice and easy. Trigonometry. But yeah, they could join in a call. I think there's a VOD that I have on my YouTube of someone actually joining. Oh, yeah, to teach that. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's fantastic. Hey, right on. Yeah, I don't know if that's like as a teacher, substitute teacher, homeschooling, but whatever it may be, hey, good for you. Good stuff. But yeah, as like a supplement to that, unfortunately, I think there's a fair amount of struggling students, and you know, tutoring isn't what it used to be, where you can just kind of show up and tutor in person. So now I try to tutor online, for free, for funsies, every Tuesday at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. So anyone's down to join, they could either chat if they want to chat and they're shy about it. They could join in the call and copy paste their actual homework. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I just got to get people in here to do it. But then meanwhile, I kind of do like this where I talk to myself. He's a high school math teacher. I found you a couple weeks ago and had to send your page his way. Oh, nice. Hey, well, thank you. I appreciate the communication and the sharing of that I exist. And I hope this can kind of help out. If you, in fact, you know, if you have any, I don't know. I don't want to sound weird. I don't want to say like, oh, if you have students, just send them my way. But I mean, you know, everything's public, right? So it's not like some weird private tutoring thing. It's all live streamed. So you know, if they're good kids, I would appreciate that. I'm always afraid of kind of trolls showing up and messing this this thing I got going. But yeah, it's whatever. I can schedule tutoring on weekends if someone needs it. So like what fits their schedule. Weekends are, or at least every other weekend is free. And then every Tuesday I'm here. But until then, right? Until I get more of an audience to show up and actually, you know, help. What I try to do is I try to apply how math and formulas can be used for various things, right? So car payment treadmill, just kind of going over simple examples of how, you know, basic algebra can show you that is a financial trap. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, but you know, it's just kind of a rough ideas. So where someone who's like kind of eyeballing and thinking, well, why do I need to learn math? Why do I need to learn this equation? Why do I have to do this thing? It sucks. This is why. This is why. It helps you make money. Math is money, and money is math. So it kind of works out. Today was a little bit about that, a little bit lifestyle creep, and how just kind of using percentages is kind of a pitfall of when you budget things. If you only use percentage, then you experience lifestyle creep. But if you only use numbers, then you can kind of get into debt treadmills where you think, well, it's the same number, you know, why'd I have to bother? Well, it's because you're paying into infinity and the debt never gets paid off. And as a percentage, you know, why is that an issue? Well, it's because now you're spending way too much money on something that you didn't need to before, when instead it could be used to paying down debt or investing or saving. Yeah. It's basically like, you know, let's say, for example, you spent like 20% of your income flow on entertainment, right? And you're used to... Yeah, here, I'll kind of go over it really quick too. So, like, let's say, for example, you have a budget, right? 20% of your income on just entertainment, right? And you're used to just being like, you know, okay, make $100. Very, again, simple numbers, not realistic. And you have $20 for entertainment, like maybe a month or every 2 weeks. And, you know, you kind of make do with that, right? Maybe you don't go out to eat every day. Maybe you just kind of, you know, go see more free concerts instead of paid ones. You kind of... So the high seas of the internet, yar, instead of, you know, paying for services like movies in person. But then as soon as you make, baller money and you go up to $1,000, then you think, well, I'm sticking with that percentage, so now I have $200. So now I have this budget, I'm good, I deserve these nice things. Now you go for like wines and cheeses and vacations, and that's fine and all. That's not too bad. That's part of the good part of it, right? If you have that budget, you're following that. But also the delta between the amount that you used to spend and that you're now spending is still a significant amount of money. It's $180. And that money may be better served doing things like paying down debt, investing and saving, because the way income flow kind of works is where, you have a certain amount of money that comes in, but, if it's being blocked by something like, credit cards or being blocked by loans, then that's less money that you have for literally fun and games. So the sooner you get those things paid off, then you can enjoy that lifestyle creep, right? Once you get rid of these things that are burdening your income flow, then you should shift into having nicer things instead of having the nicer things first right away and still keeping up these debts. Or, getting into more debt because you think, okay, now I have more money to put into nicer things like a nicer car, but then you kind of get into those car payment traps where you're just paying more and more for something that functionally works and is a depreciating asset. So, yeah, it's some wild stuff. There's a lot of wild things about finance and money, but also how it applies to math and kind of these visual examples that I try to share. But yeah, again, I wanna thank you guys for coming. I really do appreciate it. I'm here every Tuesday, and it's kind of like a crapshoot whether I do like strictly math stuff. I think last week was polynomials is what I covered, and then I forgot what I did the week before that. But this week is this thing. I try to keep it generally math related. I know at some point I also covered the writing process and how to like, use a formula for time, in which, how to structure doing the writing process, whether, you have like a week to do it and how to like, crunch time, or whether you have like a month and how to not procrastinate. I think it's pretty helpful. But yeah, again, if you or anyone you know wants free tutoring, right? Decent tutoring, I like to think. Been doing this for years, but not online as much, usually in person. Yeah, they can just send me a message on Twitch and we can schedule something on the weekends. Or they could just come and listen in, kind of see what I'm about. Maybe I'll just happen, if you have any subject recommendations or something you want to cover, then I'm down for that too, right? It doesn't have to be just one-on-one. It could just be helping like a bunch of people with the general subject and have them like chime in and say like, oh yeah, this is great. Oh, yeah, this is terrible. Whatever, because we're here to have fun, but also, learn while having it. But yeah, again, thank you very much for coming. I really do appreciate you showing up and also for chatting. And yeah, that's where this is kind of where I gotta head out for the night. So thanks again, and I hope you have a good one. Have a good night. Yeah, thank you for coming. Alright, let me see if I could switch the outro properly. There we go.